Ah, stating land. Who doesn't love it? At the cost of governing capacity, you can reduce the autonomy down to 0% and get all that wonderful manpower and money and stuff from the province. Unfortunately, it does cost you governing capacity, a lot of it, and it quickly adds up. But what if you didn't? What if you could get enough minimum autonomy in territories that even trade company land that would have 90% autonomy was actually zero autonomy? What if you could trade company the world, saving yourself hundreds of thousands of admin in the process? Okay, even like 10,000 admin, I mean, you get the point. And basically have it as a pseudo-full state. Well, today, we are stacking minimum autonomy in territories, and we're going to be reducing it down to 0%, as permanently as we can. So, disclaimers. Not exactly a usual one to start with, but you cannot form America with the American -10% minimum autonomy in the ideas, territories, and then form another tag. Since America is an end tag. The end tag we'll be using in question in this run is going to be Russia, as it gives access to 15% overall. And since both Russia and America are end tags, we cannot have both. There is an alternative solution with forming America instead of Russia, but then you need state houses on literally every province for the last 5%. Or you could just, accept 5% autonomy. The advantage of the America route is you don't have to wait until the Age of Revolutions, or the final Russia age bonus, which is used in the route, but it is significantly harder, as you have to move your capital to the New World as well. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, the disclaimers. Standard as before as well, ironman compatible, achievement compatible, no custom nations. Let's go. Remarkably enough, our journey today begins in a very specific country. We need to be playing as Majapahit, as they have access to a very specific mission which we require. See, Hinduism normally has this selection of deities for us to select from. However, we're going to need to select the Buddha as our deity for this demonstration. However, to get the Buddha, in our missions, we're going to need to pop the mission Candy Shrine, which unlocks the Buddha personal deity. That is actually the whole reason we're playing Majapahit. It's for this one mission alone. So you're going to have to build 15 temples and ally a 100 development country that follows the Buddhist religion, so they can unlock the Buddha personal deity. Why are we doing that? Well, one thing that we'll need access to this run is the Imperial City of Hu. Now, the possibilities to get the city itself are either becoming Theravada or Vijrayana or Mayarn or Confucian and getting all those accepted, or you can be Hindu and follow the Buddha deity, which is what we're going to be doing. The reason we're not flipping something like Theravada is for another monument, namely the Haramandir Sahib, which, on top of being more difficult to pronounce, requires you to be in the Dharmic religion group, which Hinduism obviously is, because it's pretty much the definition of the Dharmic religion group. Therefore, by playing as Majapahit and popping that mission, we'll have access to both of those monuments, which immediately is going to allow us to knock 25% off that autonomy. Now we'll need to reverse some colonization and make our way over to England. With England a slightly different shade of red, and with the British accepted and promoted to the primary culture, we should have access to forming the English nation. Feel free to take new traditions and ambitions. If anything, you can take any ideas you want this run, since we're not using the America route. But with access to British missions, we're here for one thing and one thing only. Britain will give us access to the Masters of India mission. Now, it does come at the end of the British mission tree, so you're going to have to do a lot of things like seizing the Cape you probably used to get to Britain, and not having land in France. A very difficult task for any EU4 player. I know personally, I always end up getting some land in France by accident, so make sure you don't do that. But when you do that, and you have become the Master of India, you can get another -10 minimum autonomy in territories until the end of the game, as well as some diplomatic annexation costs for the fun of it. Now, let's talk ideas. We're going to need a lot of ideas this game. Complete expansion ideas for -10 minimum autonomy in territories. Okay, now that we're done with ideas, time to move on to the next step. Embrace your inner Oliver Cromwell and become a republic. With democracy sorted, make your way over to Russia and become Muscovite. Then you can go ahead and form Russia itself. For the record, make sure you stay Hindu and keep the Buddha as your deity selected for this whole time. Now as Russia, you should still be a republic, which means that if you just exist as Russia and have the tier 3 reform enabled, you should get the event this. Now the word they're trying to say here is Tisechki, and I understand it's very hard to say a word like that in English, but I would have no way of knowing that word if I don't know that word before by reading the English here. I mean, if I read this, Tisechki, I know how to pronounce that, Tisechki. If I read this, the only thing I can think of is the Stellaris language. This will give you access to a very unique Tier 2 government reform, which normally replaces a 5% minimum autonomy in territories for monarchies with another minimum 5% in territories, but other things on the side. However, we're a republic. This means, at Tier 12 we'll have access to the bureaucratic apparatus government reform, giving us access to a final -10 minimum autonomy in territories. Finally, become an economic hegemon, which will allow you to get another -20 minimum autonomy in territory, which you can then combine with the -10% from the Russia eligibility to finally achieve, in the last stage, a full 100% reduction in the autonomy in your territories. Well, it's a 90% reduction, but you're going to have 0 autonomy. So, with that all said, I think it's time for a demonstration. Wow, would you look at that? No current local autonomy effects! Woo, 0% autonomy! This is a ridiculously difficult thing that you couldn't see yourself. You needed me to demonstrate this. There's no way you could have access to 0 autonomy on your own. Okay, if this is your first lemon cake video, I apologize. You wouldn't have seen my other stuff. People in the comment section always ask me to demonstrate the modifier outbeat stacking. So just how to deliver this one as well. I like to think I'm not normally this obnoxious, but that's for you to judge, not for me. Anyway, that does conclude the video. I hope you all enjoyed. As always, a like and a sub will be appreciated, but that is all I have time for today. See you in the next one. Bye.